In a small town in the Czech Republic, there's a chapel where human bones aren't just buried. They're the decoration. 40,000 skeletons turned into chandeliers, coats of arms, and altarpieces. A half-blind craftsman spent years arranging them all by hand, alone in the darkness, his vision failing with each passing day. The question isn't just how he did it, or why anyone would hire him to do it. It's why thousands of people paid fortunes to have their bones end up there in the first place. The year is 1870. Frantisek Rint, a local woodcarver, pushes open the heavy door of the sedlec ossuary. His vision is already failing, cataracts clouding his world. But he can still see the problem clearly enough. Bones, mountains of them, skulls stacked like firewood, femurs scattered across the floor, 40,000 human skeletons piled in chaos beneath this small Gothic chapel. The Schwarzenberg family, local aristocrats, has hired him to put them in order, but Rint doesn't organize them. He transforms them into art. But here's what nobody tells you about the sedlec ossuary. Frantisek Rint wasn't the beginning of this story. He was the final act. To understand why a half-blind craftsman would spend years turning human remains into decorative pyramids and chandeliers, we need to go back 6 centuries earlier, to the moment when this cemetery became the most desired burial ground in all of Europe. The year is 1278. Henry, the abbot of Sedlec Monastery, returns from Jerusalem with a jar of soil from Golgotha, the hill where Christ was crucified. He sprinkles it across the monastery's cemetery, and word spreads like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone in Central Europe wants to be buried here, not in their local churchyard. Here, in dirt mixed with holy earth from the crucifixion site. Because medieval Christians believed this wasn't just any cemetery. It was a fast track to salvation, a geographic loophole in the journey to heaven. Nobility from Poland, merchants from Bavaria, peasants from Moravia, they all request burial at Sedlec. The cemetery becomes one of the most desirable final resting places in Europe. Then, in 1318, 30,000 people die in the Black Death Plague. Then another 10,000 in the Hussite Wars of the 1400s. The cemetery runs out of space. Way out of space. So around 15 to 11, the monks do what medieval Christians routinely did. They build a charnel house, a bone chapel. They exhume the older remains, clean the bones, and stack them in the basement of the cemetery church, respectfully, systematically, creating room for the next generation of dead. Now here's where modern people get confused. We think, that's macabre, that's creepy. But medieval Europeans, they think it's holy, sacred even. Because in medieval Christianity, bones aren't just leftovers. They're relics. They're what remains when everything falls, burns away. The skull on a monk's desk isn't a Halloween decoration, it's a memento mori, a reminder that death gives life meaning. Remember you will die, it whispers. So remember how to live. Saints' bones perform miracles. Pilgrims travel thousands of miles to touch skeletal fingers through golden reliquaries. The entire medieval economy of salvation runs on the spiritual power of human remains. Sedlec isn't unique in having a bone chapel. There are ossuaries across Catholic Europe, in Paris, in Rome, in Portugal, but most just stack bones neatly, respectfully, anonymously. Sedlec goes further. By the 1700s, a half-blind Cistercian monk, his name lost to history, takes on an extraordinary project. Working alone in the dim chapel, his vision already compromised, he arranges the bones into 6 enormous pyramids, each containing thousands of skeletons. He stacks skulls in geometric patterns. He creates architectural stability from human mortality. For years he works in near darkness, both from the chapel's shadows and his own failing eyes. The pyramids stand for over a century. Then Frantisek Rint arrives in 1870. Rint is a woodcarver, a craftsman, not a monk. The Schwarzenberg aristocrats want something more than pyramids. something that shows off their wealth and piety in equal measure. Rint gives them a masterpiece made of death. He disassembles the monks' pyramids and creates a massive chandelier containing at least one of every bone in the human body. Femurs form the structure. Ribs create chains. Skulls crown the top. It hangs in the center of the chapel, swaying slightly when visitors enter, clicking softly, bone against bone. He constructs the Schwarzenberg coat of arms entirely from bones. A raven pecking out eyes, rendered in finger bones and jaw fragments. An aristocratic family's pride, spelled out in the skeletons of peasants and nobles alike. He frames the altar with garlands of skulls. He builds columns from stacked vertebrae. He uses pelvic bones as structural supports. And here's what haunts me. Rint does this work while losing his eyesight. Day after day in the dim chapel, his vision narrowing, his world growing darker, surrounded by 40,000 reminders that his own skeleton will one day be all that remains of him too. Did he pray while he worked? Did he know these people's stories? The plague victim, the knight, the mother who died in childbirth? Or did they become abstract to him, just raw material, just components in a larger design? What does it do to a person's mind to spend years handling the bones of strangers, to feel skulls under your fingers until they're as familiar as wood grain, to build beauty from what everyone else sees as decay? Modern tourists visit Sedlec and take selfies with the chandelier. They call it creepy, morbid, shocking. But they're missing the entire point. For Frantisek Rint, for the half-blind monk before him, for the medieval Christians who paid fortunes to be buried there, this wasn't a horror show. It was a prayer made physical. It was theology you could touch. Every skull in that chandelier represents someone who believed their bones had spiritual power. Every femur in those pyramids belonged to someone who thought death was just a doorway. And these bones were the key. Rint signs his work exactly once. In the entrance, in small bones, he spells out Frantisek Rint, 1870. A signature made from someone else's finger bones. A reminder that the artist's hands will one day be bones too. He completes the work and leaves. He dies in 1894, his eyes nearly useless by the end. We don't know where he's buried. We don't know if his bones were ever added to his creation. Somewhere Frantisek Rint is a skeleton now too. But unlike the 40,000 in his masterpiece, his remains are lost to history. The sedlec ossuary remains. 40,000 people, most of them nameless now, transformed into something between art and prayer. Tourism websites call it the Bone Church, market it as spooky entertainment for the Instagram age. But underneath the selfie sticks and the guided tour commentary, the original question remains: what does it do to a person to spend years alone, half-blind, arranging the skeletons of 40,000 strangers into monuments of mortality? Did Frantisek Rint go mad? Did he find peace? Did he see something transcendent in the architecture of death that we've forgotten how to see? We'll never know. He left only bones to answer for him, and they're still hanging there in the darkness, still clicking softly in the draft, still asking us what we've lost when we turned memento mori into Instagram content. The sedlec ossuary still stands today. Those same bones, still hanging in the darkness, still asking us what we're really afraid of when we look at death. If you found this disturbing, fascinating, or somewhere in between, subscribe, because I release a new hidden piece of history every week, and next week's might be even stranger. And here's your question to contemplate. If someone arranged your bones into art 500 years from now, would you find it horrifying, or would you find it holy? Leave your answer in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.